Hello, world. Oh, what's up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. You know, before we jump in, I just want to say a real quick thank you to our friends at Macy's for bringing spring to the Build stage. You see, their annual flower show is happening right now. Yes, right now through April 7th in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. This year's cosmic-inspired theme is the Journey to Paradisios, and it is not to be missed. Head over to Macy's.com/flower show for more info. It's a really great way to spend a day. That rhymed. That was cool. Our next guest is a Grammy Award-nominated artist, a best-selling author, was on Survivor, and of course, you'll recognize her for her role as Blair on The Facts of Life. Starting April 7th, you'll be able to catch her as host of Collector's Call, MeTV Network's first original series. Folks, the great Lisa Whelchel is in the building. How about that? Make a little noise for Lisa. Come on. Let's do it up. You are correct to woo as such. It's going to be an awesome time. We'll bring her out in just a second. But before we do, I believe we have a quick look at the show. So let's go ahead, run that clip.
Many people have a favorite item in their life. For some, that one thing becomes a collection of thousands. These are the people America is about to meet. This is Collector's Call.
Your house is like a museum. I cannot wait to get started.
The notion of owning a piece of history is just amazing to me.
Collector's Call is the new series premiering on MeTV this April. Hosted by Lisa Whelchel from MeTV's The Facts of Life, Collector's Call takes you on a nostalgic trip inside the wondrous and wacky world of personal collections.
The mold of Tom Cruise's teeth, that's a kind of a really weird but cool thing. I'm traveling the country, meeting people with the most amazing collections we can find.
This is probably one of the rarest promotional toys ever to be produced.
From what I've seen, there's certainly at least $10 million here.
It doesn't have to be worth $1 million. It's worth $1 million to me.
These are real people with a passion for their possessions.
I will never sell that coat. I'm being buried in it.
I purchase everything because it's something that I love.
It's just a house full of passion.
See the treasure gems our collectors can't live without. Or can they? Because Collector's Call comes with a twist. In every show, we not only appraise these collections, we offer the collector a chance to make a trade.
This is a tough one.
You're driving a hard bargain. Okay, this is getting interesting.
Will they part with one beloved item for the chance at another elusive prize?
Do you have this?
I do not.
Do you want this?
I do.
This is one of those hobbies where when things come up, I drop everything and go.
Oh, you guys, I don't know what to say.
Join us as we meet fascinating collectors in the new show filled with charm, heart, and a whole bunch of really amazing stuff. This is Collector's Call.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, make a crazy amount of noise. The great Lisa Whelchel is right here. Make some noise for Lisa. I said it back there, I'll say it again. That show is so much fun. Oh my God.
Oh, it is fun.
It really is. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. You got an awesome new show. You're celebrating 40 years, The Facts of Life, 40-year anniversary, which is wild. I'll hold for applause. 40 years, guys, for The Facts of Life. A lot of fun stuff to talk about today. Before we get into any of it, I always love beginning. Just how are you doing? How's this whole process going for you right now? You're all over the place talking about everything, right?
I know. Yeah, it's a very busy season. It's going really, really well. I'm enjoying this. I wasn't pursuing anything. This show came to me, and I thought, man, that just sounds like too much fun to pass up, and I'm so glad I didn't.
Well, that's exciting. That actually dovetails nicely into one of the first questions I wanted to ask was how you got involved, because this is one of those shows that, like, for a lot of people is almost like a dream gig. You get to travel, you get to see all these, you get to meet all these really interesting people, you get to see all these cool, like, toys and collectibles and stuff.
It is a dream gig.
So
You're right.
So where did it come from? How did it find its?
I have a friend that produced a pilot for my daughter and I that did not make it, but I guess I made an impression on him. So when it came, when he had this idea, he came asking if I was interested, and it's just right in my wheelhouse. I'm so curious about everything. I love learning. I love education. And the crazy thing is, I learned so much through these collectibles about things I didn't know anything about history, and certainly about people. These collectors that's just my favorite part of the whole job.
Well, it's one of the fun things that you get to do is you're meeting these fascinating people and you're connecting. They're so intensely passionate about this thing that they've collected over the years. And then you have an expert comes and you get to be there and share how much it's approximately worth and what the monetary value is for this thing that they love so much. And in the episodes I've seen, they were elated. They were overjoyed. That's got to be a fun moment to be a part of, to get to do that, to bring that joy to somebody.
It is a fun moment, and yet there's still a little drama because they find out how much things are worth. But then the real twist is we found out through our sources an elusive item that's been on their wish list. And we try to figure out a way to get that. And then we bring it in to offer them a trade. The problem is they have to trade it for something of equal value. Yeah. And it isn't even about the monetary value. Usually if it's something of equal value, it's what it took for them to get that, to track it down, to finally find it, to be able to win it if it was like in an auction of some sort. And then they have to decide, do they really want this thing they've been hunting for enough to give up something that's every single piece? I don't care if, like Winnie the Pooh, where she has another separate house full of Winnie the Pooh items. I think she'd have a hard time giving up even one of them.
She has a whole separate house? I saw The Wizard of Oz where there was a secret door that led to like a hallway that curved around. But the Winnie the Pooh has an entire other house.
Yes, so she has a 2-bedroom home, and she and her husband live there. No children, lots of little Pooh children apparently. Not as opposed to children who poo, just a whole nother.
That's a different thing entirely.
And outgrew the house, bought the house next door, and filled it up with Winnie the Pooh.
I love when they outgrew when you mean with their collection, they outgrew the house.
That's right.
And it came time to make a decision.
Yes, right.
The call they made
was buy the house next door.
Get another house.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea Winnie the Pooh collecting was so lucrative.
Yeah, commitment to their passion, for sure.
Would you classify that as the most, if not one of the more surprising moments or things that you learned on this?
There's so many surprising moments. No, maybe in the top 10, but no, what would be surprising? There's so many. Oh, well, I do. The secret room in The Wizard of Oz totally shocked me. I was not ready for that. And not only did they have a secret room in the house, but it was filled with more Wizard of Oz things. Let's see. I would have to say the collector who collects locks of presidential hair.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard at home, there was an audience member who exclaimed, "What?" And you are correct, because we're going to go into that. Locks of presidential hair?
Right. Like he has George Washington and Abraham. No. Yes. Like, how do you even know? And he has a provenance for it to authenticate it. John Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln. So apparently back in the day, if you were going to invite somebody to some kind of soiree, you would also authenticate that this was really George Washington asking you over to his house, because he would send a lock of his hair.
And everybody immediately could identify his hair back in that day. That was it was a foolproof system, because
they're wearing wigs, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Remember?
No two locks of hair were the same. They're like fingerprints back then.
It's not like they had DNA testing back then.
Yeah, no, I feel like the person with this collection may have been lied to about something at some point.
Well, you would think so, except that is something they are very, very passionate about, is getting the provenance for it. No, this is real. This has really happened. And so none of this fake stuff.
At the risk of spoiling the lock of hair episode, did they ask, or did they answer at all, how the heck that got started? Like, where does that begin?
I don't know. I mean, really, I guess
have to watch and find out. Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. Okay, so that brings up another question that I had was, how much research do they ask of you, or do they give you any information going in before you see the collections, before you meet the people? Do you prefer to go in blind and experience it, or do they tell you a couple of things?
I prefer to go in blind. Now, they've done all their research, so they know which items are going to be the most fun to highlight, but I like just to interview them cold. That's just something I enjoy doing anyway. I'm a life coach now, and the reason I got into it is just because I'm fascinated with people, and it's all about questions. I mean, people pay me just to ask them questions, so kind of like you.
Yeah, no,
It's a
I've
good
tricked
gig, isn't
a
it?
whole corporation into cutting me a check every once in a while to sit here and do this. I don't know how they have not caught on
what
yet.
should I do with my life?
Well, I honestly hold on to this for dear life because this is a pretty easy gig.
It is, though. I love my job. I really do. I love it. But this opportunity to travel around and to meet these people and hear their stories, and they're always so heartwarming. You can trace the collections usually back to something that they experienced that they're just hanging on to, usually in childhood, usually related to another person that means a lot to them, oftentimes keeping the memory alive. So, yeah, it's inspirational.
I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe that person's mom worked at a presidential hair salon, and maybe like there's a memory there. Like I just got to know what that story is.
Right.
It's gonna drive me crazy. Were you a fan? Were you a fan of sort of the genre? Did you ever watch shows like the Antique Roadshow or whatever before? Because there's that element of like that makes these shows so addicting of seeing these things. Like I could have something like that, or I remember having something like that, and then finding out it's worth a couple of $100,000.
That is definitely a big draw of this show. There's so many things that I just enjoyed because seeing them. Oh my goodness, I had that doll as a child, or I saw that telephone on Dick Van Dyke Show, and when I would watch it as a kid, and that is part of the. I think part of the real draw of the show is that we do see ourselves, and it brings back memories, and then we learn things that we didn't know. There's lots of collections that I didn't know anything about them, and actually end up getting very fascinated, and really you get to understand. In the beginning you think, why would anybody collect that? And then by the end you're going, oh yeah, that's cool. Maybe I can find me something like that on a garage sale.
Have you are you at all at heart a collector? Did you ever collect anything at home?
My aunt was an antique dealer, and so she traveled with me in my 20s, and we would go all over the world, and I would work, and she would go look for things to bring back to her antique shop, and so she taught me an awful lot about collecting.
It's amazing. I remember when I was a kid, I don't think I was ever like an officially collector, but when you're younger and you're little, you collect your action figures, and you collect like McDonald's had these commemorative glasses for like every movie that came out, and I insisted we get all of them. You know what I'm talking about. So like there's all those fun things. What about when your kids were little? Did they have little fun things that they collected and they held on to?
Oh my gosh, yes. And Beanie Babies was a big thing. And so, yes. And so I wish I had the picture. I have a picture of them. I took them to the mall and set them in the middle of all of their Beanie Babies surrounded by them. And so they probably would not like it if I actually displayed that picture.
Very, very cool. Speaking of family and speaking of children, you kind of took a break from show business for a little bit, and you were, working on your books, and you did a little bit of music, you did all sorts of stuff, and then around, I want to say 2012, you did Survivor, you came back to TV, and then more recently we got the Hallmark movies you did, which were great. When you finally came back to a film set, when you were going back to work on those Hallmark movies and stuff like that, was that scary? Were you excited? What was going through your head as you were getting back into that side of things?
Yeah, it was scary. I was really surprised because I've been acting since I was a child, but I did take about 20 years off because I left show business to raise my kids, and then after they were off in college, that's when I moved back to LA and started working again. And I'll have to say, I was I felt out of place, maybe like a baseball player that the swing's just not quite right, and that's what it felt like. I went through a little bit of insecurity and thinking, man, times have changed, acting has changed, sitcoms you could be really big, and now everything's really subtle, and this is me acting, and I'm going to win something big for this award.
You were very serious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so making the transition was a little bit difficult. Thankfully, I went. One of the first things I did was Medea's Christmas.
That's right.
So that's just one big sitcom.
That's a fun way to ease back into things.
Yes.
Also, though, Tyler Perry and those productions are notoriously very big productions. Like he puts a lot into those. Are very passionate about those projects. It's a big movie set for you to just walk back on. Also, how did that happen? How did
you know why that happened? Good question. Now that you ask, Tyler Perry's a big Survivor fan.
Get out.
Yeah.
So he saw you.
So he saw me on Survivor, and then he's also a friend with Jeff Probst, and so I hadn't done any acting until I went back until Survivor was not acting, and I didn't do it because it was on television. I did it because I'm a huge fan of the show. But then I moved back to LA, and so Madea was the first big thing I did.
That's pretty amazing that you would do this thing that you were a big fan of. You go on Survivor, and it sort of kind of thrusts you back into the scene. Did you anticipate that at all, or when you went into Survivor, were you just like, I'm going because I'm a fan of this thing and I want this life experience?
Right. Yeah. I had been wanting to be on Survivor forever, but you have to give like 2 months of your life, because even though I was on there 39 days, 7 weeks away, and they cast you and you're on a plane within a couple of weeks. So I travel around and speak, and didn't have 2 months off that far in advance. I was booked far in advance, and so I never could. But I was booked for a year-long speaking tour. The president was let go. They hired somebody else and then like nixed all the speakers. So I had an entire year open, which at first crushed me. And then it was like, okay, I've been taught by a friend, what does this make possible? And I thought, oh my gosh, I can be on Survivor. So I filmed a little audition tape and put it on social media and tagged Jeff Probst and CBS, and somebody got a sneak peek of it and called me, and I auditioned.
That's pretty wild.
And you do have to audition, and it's a pretty grueling process.
What do you remember? What's the most intense part of the audition that you remember?
Well, you are in a hotel for a few days, and you can't talk to anybody. You can't talk to anybody at home. You can't talk to anybody. I mean, it's kind of, if you make it through the process, I guess they figure maybe she can handle it on the island.
They strand you in a hotel first. That's how they do it. And they go, okay.
But a lot of people, I'm introverted, so I'm okay with that. I did a 30-day silent retreat once, so I was cool with that part. But it is a little bit nerve-wracking for some people to just kind of be isolated like that.
Yeah, I can
and you have to go through a bunch of psychological tests and all that.
That's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And so you do that show, and then all of a sudden, you're in Medea's Christmas. Tyler Perry wants you to do that, and then Hallmark gives you a call and says, we've got these great movies we want you to do.
Yeah.
And that's how kind of everything just sort of came together and snowballed.
Yeah, and I actually got to do one of the Hallmark movies was with Kim Fields, who played Tootie, and the other was with my daughter, and she played my daughter. And so that was really a great memory.
You know, talking about Kim and keep in touch, notoriously, I was reading a bunch of articles. All of you, celebrating 40 years here of The Facts of Life, all of you have said that you've kept touch over the years.
Right.
And I'm curious, how has that friendship evolved or grown as means of communication has changed, as your lives have changed? Like, what does that look like now? How is it different from, 20 years ago?
I think it probably looks like many people. They're friends from college and high school. It's, your lives go in different directions, but when you get back together, it's just like old times. And we all live in different parts of America. So typically, if I happen to be going to Texas, I'll visit Nancy, or Atlanta, visit Kim, or in LA, visit Mindy. I live in Nashville now. So, but Nancy just joined social media. We're all on social media. Nancy finally joined. And so now we're actually, like everybody else, keeping up with our friends that way.
Do you guys have like a group text message thread? Have you bridged that gap yet?
We do have a group thread. Yes, we do.
Does the group have a fun little name?
It doesn't, but we need. My kids. I have a group thread, and I put the little emojis and everything. But you're right. I totally need to. My social media, my group text thread.
It gets overlooked often. People don't think to give it a fun name, but every once in a while.
Do they think to give it the fun emojis? So, see, that's also a big part of it.
I think you got to let your creative flag fly and just figure it out and just go where the wind takes you. Speaking of keeping up with people, you keep up with George Clooney there, that little guy? Did you ever talk to him since then?
He follows me on Facebook. He's always DMing me, but
he's keeping tabs on you.
You don't need to follow him. No, I blocked him. What?
Blocked him. Yeah, because he hassles you. He doesn't leave you alone. He strikes me as the
he's
kind
a
of guy
troll,
to do that.
Truly.
Yeah, he's the reason for all the negative. No, he's a wonderful person, I'm sure.
Yes.
It's just always so interesting when you cross paths with people like that early on. Was there any sense of no one could ever predict people like George when you meet them, they're going to go on to be and live the life that he leads. But what was that like? What do you remember from those couple of seasons, those early days, and the times that you guys spent together?
Well, you nailed it. None of us would have guessed, because he was cute, but not like he is now. He was a good actor, but not like he is now. So he really did. He's like a fine wine, I guess. He really has aged quite well.
He's notoriously like one of those fun-loving trickster types. Was he like that on set as well? It's April Fool's Day today. But did he ever play?
Very fun.
Did he ever do any pranks or anything on set? Do you recall or remember?
Not to me.
No.
No.
Nice. Well done.
No.
I was reading a lot in preparation for our talk because, like I said, it is the 40-year anniversary. It's a big deal. In fact, I believe on the day that this premieres, you're hosting a great marathon on MeTV as well.
MeTV is doing, it's called Lisa's Call. They asked me to choose 5 of my favorite shows, and we filmed over 200, so that was very difficult to do, yes. And so they're going to air those on Sunday night, and then the premiere will be after that. So the most fun for me about that is I have all my kids are grown and they have significant others, so they're coming over and we're going to watch The Facts of Life together. And we haven't done that since they were, like 11 or 12 years old. And my son's 29, so it'll be fun to share that together.
Is somebody making a big dinner that night too? You gonna make a big event out of it? You gonna cook?
I am just, I was working when and I've never been a good cook. So no, we will be ordering something in, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I'm sure you got a favorite place. You'll make it nice.
That's
It'll be
true.
fun.
Yes.
Something I really wanted to ask you about that I thought was fascinating and really cool and speaks to just your character was that back in the day, there's a story that they wanted to do a story of Blair losing her virginity, and you were uncomfortable doing that, and you kind of took a stand and said, I don't really want to tell that story. I don't feel right about it. And what blew me away about that was the strength and your convictions at such a young age to stand up to a television crew and say, this is not for me. I'm not comfortable. Was that scary to have to say that and stick to your guns like that and do that back then?
You know what? It was scary, but it was never an option for me. I just knew. It was the second season of Facts of Life. I was 16, I think, at the time. I just knew a lot of 8, 9, 10-year-old girls are watching the show. And that's way too weighty a responsibility to deal with a subject like that, knowing young girls they're thinking about that kind of thing. And I also understood that, no matter how however they wrote it, it would still be something that could be resolved in 17 minutes and a couple of commercials and a group hug. And that's just not life, really.
Yeah, for sure. Well, still, really, really cool story, I think, that at 16, you were able to identify that thing and stand your ground and tell a whole bunch of adults with a whole lot of money that this was not something that you were comfortable doing.
It would probably be harder for me now because I would actually know what I was doing.
There's an ignorance is bliss element to it, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Speaking of ignorance and bliss and how it was when you were 16 at the time, that show, it was massive. Here we are talking about it 40 years later. And I just wonder how you navigated those fan interactions back then, especially when the show was at its peak. You look at network TV now, if you got a couple of million, it's good. But back then, that was like primetime, #1 show. And so everybody kind of knew who you were. So I just wonder, at an early age, what was it like navigating those waters and dealing with fame like that?
I think it was in a lot of ways easier back then because even though there were only 3 channels, so there was much more recognition because families would all gather together. They only had a few options. I don't even know if they had, remote control back then. So if you were on a channel, you stayed on a channel. But we didn't have the internet back then. And I think that's one of the things that makes it really harder these days for celebrities. And so, and again, the ignorance is bliss element of it. I just didn't know. I was on television at 12 on the Mickey Mouse Club and then went to The Facts of Life. So it's really my only frame of reference for life.
Was dealing with that. Did you have little disguises and stuff when you go out? Did you have like a baseball cap, little mustache and glasses, the whole night? Actually, I really wanted to ask you about.
Actually, truthfully, my disguise is going as myself. Really? Yes, because Blair is always about clothes and heels and makeup, and I've got it on now because I'm here on television. But typically, I'm in sweats, my hair's pulled back, no makeup, so I'm my best disguise.
What a comfortable disguise!
It is very comfortable.
We're going to go to the audience in a second, but I also, as someone who went to school for animation and is a big Disney nut, when I realized that, of course, you were a Mouseketeer, I was like, I got to ask you about what do you remember from that time? Are you still, many years later, considered a part of the Disney family? When you go, do they let you skip lines? Are you in like the inside of a special club? What's it like being a Mouseketeer?
You know what? It really was. It was a dream job for sure because at 12 and 13 is when we filmed it, and we filmed Fridays were filmed at Disneyland. So if we did a production number, we had to do it before the park was open, which that's just a cool thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So no, I have lots of great memories.
Very, very cool. Well, I don't want to detract from any of the time from our audience. We've got a couple of questions out there. Thank you, Kate. The first one's coming to us from right over here. How you doing?
Hello.
Lisa,
Hi.
I'm a big fan. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank you.
You guys were talking about the Facts of Life before, and I know that you guys are all still good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And since the 40th anniversary is coming up, might we see like a get-together or a reunion or something with all of you?
Maybe we don't have anything solid right now, but we actually did all get on a conference call last month, and we are at a time now. Our kids are getting old enough. Their kids, my kids are grown. Their kids are getting old enough, and we're thinking, it'd be great to work together again. So we'll see.
Yeah, the time is right. Thank you very much for that question. It's just a big thing right now. Every other show is a reboot or a revisiting.
And I don't know that we would do a reboot so much because I think we would like to do something other than those characters, but we'd like to work together. So we'll see if we can make something like that.
So we
happen.
may see you all work together again.
I may be Joe,
Yeah.
and she may be Tootie. I mean, we're just going to just mix it.
That'd be a lot of fun. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that. Kate, do I have another one? I've got one more. Fantastic. Let me do one more question. Come right on over.
Hi.
Hi. So since Nancy and Kim did Dancing with the Stars, would you ever consider doing it?
So I would never consider it. Never. As a matter of fact, people ask me a lot of times if I'd ever do Survivor again. And I tell them I would never do that. The only way I would do that is if in some alternative universe I had to choose between Dancing with the Stars or Survivor. Then I would do Survivor. But that tells you how much I do not want to do Dancing with the Stars. I'm a terrible dancer.
Wow. If you could do any reality competition show, where would you feel most comfortable? Where would you be primed?
That's a good question. I don't know that I would do another reality one because I really did Survivor because I loved the show. But if I had to just to answer this question,
exactly.
probably
It's
yes.
fun.
Amazing Race, I think.
Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like American Ninja Warrior probably wasn't in the running or something.
Probably not. Probably not.
Not
gonna
really
make
what
it.
you're looking to do right now, but it's out there. Guys, thank you so much for your questions. Thanks for being an awesome audience. We got to wrap things up. Lisa, I'm sure you've got a million other things to go to, so I'm really excited that you took time to come hang out and do this one with us. I'll remind the world watching, if you head and check out MeTV on April 7th at 10 p.m., you're going to see the premiere of Collector's Call. But if you tune in much earlier than that, there's a fantastic marathon of Facts of Life, the Facts of Life that Lisa herself is hosting. Check out her favorite episodes. I heard a little bit of applause. It's premature, but I'll take it. Let's make some noise for the great Lisa Whelchel right here, please. Let's go.